Hey, good morning guys, and welcome back to my channel. I know a lot of you have been seeing me in my car doing updates a lot lately. I haven't had a chance to do any of them at home. We have been renovating a little bit of our house, pulling up all the old baseboards, putting in new ones, regrouting, painting. So my house is a little bit a mess, and the room that I would usually film in kind of has a lot of extra stuff in it at the moment. So sorry for constantly doing my updates in the car. I wanted to pop on for those of you that don't follow my Instagram account. Sorry for the sun. It's like really early in Florida right now. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. I finally went through all my testing with the RE. So I did my HSG test, which is the dye test to check your fallopian tubes, and that came back normal. I went through all my blood results, which I'll go over in a few. And then also my husband did his semen analysis, and that came out great. So I went back to the doctor to go over my results. And basically what my results were indicating is that I have PCOS, which some people hate to hear that news. I kind of expected it when I was younger and just starting out my cycles. I did end up in the emergency room a lot, and a woman had suggested that it could be due to cysts on my ovaries. I do remember going to see an OB back then, and she put me on birth control, but I don't think I ever got an official diagnosis of PCOS. And since I was so young and my periods were just starting out, I'm not entirely sure if I even recall them being irregular or non-existent, because all of that was just so new to me. So I have been on a 90-day birth control pill for 17 years prior to my husband and I trying to conceive. So just a little bit about PCOS for anybody who, I'm just grabbing my notes, who isn't familiar with PCOS. PCOS is a hormonal disorder. Some of the symptoms that you can see are having long or no cycles, having a lot of acne or facial hair. You usually have high androgen levels, which is your male hormone levels. And you can also be insulin resistant, and your body does not produce enough progesterone, which is what is there to kind of support the baby after you ovulate and make sure that it implants properly. So in checking out my hormone levels, I have a really high DHEAS level, which has to do with your adrenal glands, which secrete that male hormone. Usually my doctor said women measure between 23 and 260, and I had a level of 270. So I have very high androgen and testosterone levels. So some of the symptoms that you can have from having a high DHEA level are a lot of the same symptoms that you see in PCOS. The facial hair, the acne, and having no cycle. Also, they tested my AMH level, which is the anti-Müllerian hormone. This level is kind of tested to see if you have PCOS, but then they also use it to test the number of eggs, or it's basically how many eggs you have left. It doesn't tell you an exact number, but if it's a higher level, then you have a lot more eggs than somebody who has a lower level. It doesn't tell you the quality of those eggs, but just that you have a higher or lower number count of it. So my AMH level was 12.5, which is extremely high. So that was their big indication that I do have PCOS, but they also confirmed with an ultrasound an egg count for me, and I had 81 eggs that they could see on an ultrasound. So my doctor says that my chances are pretty high. I just would need to do a medicated cycle in order to conceive. So she told my husband, stick with this one. She's a super producer, which I thought was kind of funny. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I have all these eggs and my body has no clue what to do with them. And I do understand there are women out there whose diagnoses are a lot worse than mine when it comes to PCOS and their egg count. But you also have to take into consideration that my entire young adulthood, all the way through my husband and I starting to conceive, I never had a real period because I had been on birth control for so long. So my body never matured, released, and ovulated any of my eggs, which is why I have so many of them. Also, I did, outside of my RE, I spoke with a doctor that my family goes to that deals with hormone imbalances. Specifically, he actually deals with hormone imbalances that are affected by medications, not just birth control, but any type of medication you may take, excess amounts of Tylenol, anything that you might take for depression or any other types of thyroid disorders or insulin and things like that. So I spoke with this doctor and he gave me a couple of natural remedies to kind of help support my body's natural function when it comes to the reproductive organs and any kind of glands that help with secreting hormones. So the first supplement that he gave me was lipoic acid, which helps with the liver function, which in turn helps with those adrenal glands that secrete the DHEA hormones. So this should help regulate and bring that number down from that 270 that I have and bring it into a normal range. Also, he gave me vitamin D3, which my vitamin D has always been low. Even though I live in Florida, I'm not in the sun a lot. I do have rosacea, which is triggered by a lot of the heat and sun, so I tend not to be in the sun a lot. I'm also taking the D-chiroinositol, I think is how you say it. He has found better results and studies with the D-chiroinositol versus the myo-inositol, I think is how you pronounce it. You can take a combination of the two. You can take one or the other. So he has me on the D-chiro. And then also he has me taking selenium, which is also found in Brazil nuts. But since you can only eat about 3 Brazil nuts in a day, he has me on a selenium supplement, which will help with your immune support, but then it also helps with your thyroid levels. He also had suggested maca powder, but I did speak with my RE prior to starting any of these supplements, and she said all of them are okay except for that maca powder. A lot of the stuff that they give you when you're going through fertility treatments, you really don't want to take while doing any kind of herbal remedies. So she says stay away from things like ginkgo biloba, herbal tea, and then the maca powder as well. So that's the only thing that the first doctor told me to take that I'm not going to be taking because we are going to be starting a medicated cycle. Excuse me while I grab some more of my notes. So my RE did say, and I'm just grabbing my paperwork here, that she's going to be starting me right on Femara, or letrozole is another name for it. So basically I went in yesterday and I had blood drawn. They are checking my HCG level to make sure that I am not pregnant. As long as I am not pregnant, which gosh, if I was, that would be a miracle and I would be so thankful, but that is a rare chance because it is not likely that I have ovulated on my own. So the doctor has, she's taken my blood. They're going to give me Provera, or it's mexidroxyprogesterone. So it's a 10-day progesterone pill to jumpstart my cycle. Once I have a full day cycle, I have to call my RE's office and they're going to get me in for a baseline blood draw and an ultrasound. So the baseline blood draw is obviously where they're going to see all my levels at. And I'm going to take 5 days of the letrozole to kind of help mature an egg and then help my body release it. And then they're going to give me a trigger shot. But in between those, or at the end of those 5 days before I take the trigger shot, I have to come back in and they're going to do another ultrasound. And what those ultrasounds do is it checks for any kind of follicle growth or cyst growth on my ovaries. If I have a cyst, it has to be below a certain size for them to give me the trigger shot. And also we don't want those cysts getting too large because those cysts can rupture and cause a lot of pain. So just to recap a little bit there, they're going to, between days 2, 3, and 4, give me an ultrasound to make sure that I have no cysts or very small cysts on my ovaries. I will be taking letrozole for 5 days, so cycle days like 3 through 8. And then I will go back in for that secondary ultrasound, and then they will give me a trigger shot. Once I have that trigger shot, they told us to do timed intercourse. So we will have 3 days we will be told to have intercourse. They may or may not give me a secondary HCG shot or another round of Provera just to help out with those hormones that my body does not do. And then I will go back in 2 weeks for another ultrasound and HCG test. Hopefully my body does what it's supposed to do and it actually matures and releases an egg that can be fertilized. And that's what we are hoping for. We are hoping that we can do what they call a medicated or assisted cycles, and that we don't have to go through any of the IUIs or IVF. My chances of getting pregnant without any of the medication is very little, since my body currently is not ovulating on its own. I'm going to be doing another video on the letrozole. So if anybody would like to see that video, please comment down below. I would love to hear from you if you've already taken letrozole and what your side effects were with taking it, because I've heard some women that have no side effects, and then I've also heard the far side of it where it's super extreme and women are basically stuck in bed for 5 days. So please comment down below if you'd like to see how I did with the letrozole, and also let me know your stories behind it. If you haven't already, like this video, please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more about my trying to conceive with PCOS. Also, you can head over to my Instagram account, which is the Perrys, and I'll also link it down below because Perrys is spelled with a 3. And follow me there because I will be giving daily updates as I'm going through all the progesterone and the letrozole. Everybody, have a good day, and thank you for following me on this journey of trying to conceive, as well as checking out my diagnosis of PCOS. Have a good day.